Hey there, Dolphins fans. Tom Downey here with the latest around everything going on with the Miami Dolphins. We're starting off today with a look at a very much brewing position battle, both for starting reps, snaps, and even just making the roster at the wide receiver position. Now, this is kind of a pretty crazy stat to think about here. So Miami has 13 receivers right now on the roster. Obviously, all of them will not make the active roster or even the practice squad. But 10 of these players have started games and or seen significant key snaps in the NFL. And by the way, that group of 10 does not include first-round pick Jaylen Waddle, who, of course, is guaranteed to make this team's roster. So what I'm saying here is that there is a significant numbers game on this wide receiver room. There are too many players for the Dolphins to be in a good position to not have to cut somebody out there. That is the unfortunate reality for Miami. There's going to have to be some changes here as things move forward in Miami. So what exactly does that look like? Well, we'll take a look at it here. Now, I think there are some obvious roster locks here. Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Jaylen Waddle, they're guaranteed to make it. I would argue that Preston Williams, Lynn Bowden, they're probably going to make the roster. I can't guarantee it if they struggle significantly in terms of camp and preseason and everything there. But that's already, let's say, 4 or 5 guys. Now, Will Fuller, we'll get to him more in depth in a second, but the numbers game is real. So my first question here is this. How many wide receivers will the Dolphins actually carry? Is it 6? Is it 7? Anything more than that feels fairly unlikely for Miami, just given the way that roster is set up. There are too many guys, barring injury, for everyone to make it. So let's say it's maybe 2 of this next batch of players, like Kirk Merritt, Kyle Oxley. They're not going to make the team. But Albert Wilson, he's a slot option, right? Mack Hollins, vertical threat. Allen Hurns, much like Wilson, is a long-time NFL veteran receiver. And there are also some younger pieces here. Jakeem Grant, who is a very good special teamer, but kind of expensive. He might be a salary cap crunch type of player in the end. Robert Foster fills a vertical threat role. I doubt both he and Mack Hollins make the roster. Maybe one of them, but shoot, Waddle and Fuller play the exact same role. Malcolm Perry, a draft pick last year, kind of plays that backup Lynn Bowden, almost receiver, running back hybrid role. So it's tricky. There are too many guys right now for Miami. I will make one very important note here, though, as it relates to Miami. Will Fuller, a big-time offseason addition, right? He is still facing that NFL suspension for violating the PED policy. So for the first game of the season, the Dolphins don't have to carry Will Fuller as a member of the 53-man roster. He goes on the suspended list. So at least for week 1, Will Fuller is not counting. So maybe the Dolphins bring him in for, they say, hey, we're going to sign you up and you're not going to count. We'll carry 7 in week 1 and maybe somebody gets hurt. Maybe someone gets traded once Will Fuller comes back. But the numbers game is certainly there. And I think it'll be a fascinating thing to watch this offseason and this preseason, who actually makes the roster at a suddenly very deep wide receiver position. Of course, we'll keep you guys covered on everything going around this training camp and preseason for the Miami Dolphins. If you guys want basically daily videos, the link is right there at the bottom of your screen. It's youtube.com/Dolphins News. Join the fastest growing Dolphins YouTube channel out there by subscribing right now. Let's go to Myles Gaskin and that position for the Dolphins running back here. We've kind of mentioned this before. ESPN did a pretty in-depth piece on it. But it appears that once again, barring a change here, that Myles Gaskin is once again in line to be the lead back for the Miami Dolphins, which is interesting. Miami very publicly explored adding other backs in the offseason. They were linked heavily to Najee Harris. They took Jalen Phillips instead. I think they were going to take Javonte Williams. The Denver Broncos sniped them by moving up instead. They had a waiver claim in for Kerryon Johnson. The Eagles sniped him, however. And I wonder if Miami could still explore somebody else before the year begins. But for the time being and entering the camp and the preseason, Gaskin is the lead guy. Now, admittedly, the offensive line was not great, at least not good enough, not ideal from that perspective for Miami, but he only averaged 4.1 yards per carry. And although that's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, it's not quite what I think the Dolphins were hoping for. I think they want more out of Gaskin, and in theory, upgrades on the offensive line will also help lead to that. Now, in the receiving game, Gaskin does offer plenty of value. 41 catches, 388 yards, 2 scores as well. But I think Gaskin, especially on third downs, is the favorite to handle that role. Admittedly, though, I thought Matt Breida was going to be the guy last year. Oops on that one. Now, the Dolphins did add a running back. Malcolm Brown comes in from the LA Rams. He's going to compete, I would say, to be more RB 1A or 1B behind Myles Gaskin. Savon Ahmed also in that conversation. They spent a 7th-round pick on Jared Dokes out of Cincinnati. So there are some other players right now at the running back position. But based on the usage last year, I would argue talent level as well. I think Myles Gaskin is the clear favorite in front right now to be RB1 once again, much to the delight of people who have him in their dynasty fantasy leagues. But do you guys trust him? Or are you looking elsewhere in the market trying to find a different running back? Get your votes in for me in the comments section. Do you trust Myles Gaskin as RB1 for this team? Type in Y for yes or type in N for no. Now, if your answer is no, there are some free agent backs that the Dolphins could at least explore. Le'Veon Bell, who they apparently had interest in last season, and then he ended up going to the Chiefs, and then he didn't play very well. Todd Gurley, he was bad down the stretch for Atlanta, like to the point that I am concerned he's never going to be the same guy ever again. You could always bring back Frank Gore. Be fun, right? I'm actually somewhat intrigued by Duke Johnson. Third down value where he offers the most, but as a change of pace rotation back, I'm at least somewhat intrigued by that option. Adrian Peterson, the ageless wonder himself, will never not be playing football, it seems like. And I think he would have interest, particularly in Miami, because I think Peterson thinks he could beat out Myles Gaskin for that RB1 role. But for the time being, it would appear Gaskin is in line in that role. I also make note that his former position coach is now one of the co-offensive coordinators for the Miami Dolphins. So if the OC trusts Gaskin, I'm sure he's telling the front office, no, we're fine. We don't need to invest anything else in the running back position. But I would still keep an eye on this. I am not fully convinced that the Dolphins won't at least explore other options. Now, for the time being, in most cases, during OTAs, minicamp, even part of training camp, teams aren't rushing to add players. They want to see what they got. They want to see what Ahmed has shown growth in. They want to see what Gerard Dokes can do. So I think it's more of a holding pattern right now, which benefits Gaskin, but we'll see if Miami does anything else in the not-too-distant future.